So, hi everyone, I'm Joy Vernon. I am the organizer for the Greater Seattle Tarot Meetup, and today we are looking at the 5 levels of the soul in Kabbalah and how they can connect us to God. So, the 5 levels of the soul, how to love God. The subheadings that we're covering today are what are the 5 levels of the soul, the glassblower analogy, which is the most common way in traditional Jewish Kabbalah of explaining this concept, placing the levels on the tree of life, and associating the levels with the tarot cards. And then we'll learn how to follow those 5 levels and use them in order to get closer to God. All the illustrations, I'm so excited. This is new to me. The artist Hilma af Klint, which is a Swedish mystic and artist. She was a theosophist and a spiritualist and an anthroposophist and really, really cool art. And apparently had an enormous exhibit at the Guggenheim a couple years ago. Well, a few years ago, 2018 to 2019. Somehow I missed all of this and found her like literally yesterday and was like, oh my God, this person is amazing. And so, all the illustrations in here are from her. And I just like, I mean, this idea, it's so, she's so symbolic too. And she's very much, like I said, a mystic and trained in esoterica. But just this idea of the divine coming down in the rays, in the 7 rays. Um, and this like elevation and return back almost is what that looks like to me. Also, she had so many images that were she's very, very spiritual in a lot of her images. She did automatic writing or automatic painting, I guess is what it was called, where she was inspired by guides and masters that would connect with her. She had like this spiritual ascended master type of being that would connect with her and tell her what to create, or even paint through her. And I realized uh as I finished the slideshow, I realized that I had really chosen all of her very sober, structured work that was in many ways the most abstract. Oh, that was the other thing about her. She basically invented abstract art, like Western abstract art. And it was not used. She predates like Kandinsky and Mondrian and all the people that get credit for inventing abstract art. She was non-representational much earlier than all of them. So really, really, really amazing person. But I was choosing, but she's also very symbolic in the way that she works and the uh, divine expressions that she uses and symbols that she uses to represent the creative process and the divine and things like that. But she also has just a lot of very like joyous, exuberant pieces. And I realized at the end of creating the slideshow that I hadn't included any of them. And so I went back this morning, just right before we started, I went back and added in some of those pieces. So this is an example of that. So what are the 5 levels of the soul? Yekida is the highest level. That is unity or oneness. Kaya is it means life or living. It's the divine life force. Neshama is the breath or soul. Ruach is the spirit or wind, and Nefesh is the soul at rest. It means rest or resting. So those are the 5 levels. And again, I love her work. There is such a sense of above and below and reflection and the sense of levels in here. I thought everything that she did just really addressed these concepts so beautifully. So let's look at those levels a little bit more intently. In fact, I'm actually going to start at the bottom. I think it's a little bit easier and go up. So the nefesh is the soul at rest. Um, and if you have been attending the the first Saturday events that are the magical images of the 10 Sephirot, we did talk about this during the Yesod one. Um, so if this sounds, you're like, wait a second, I think I've heard this before. Yes, you have. We heard about it in probably March, I think, when we did Yesod. So Nefesh is the soul at rest. It is also sometimes called the life force, but be aware that this is the life force that is just the thing that animates or brings to life the body. We have a physical being that has no, or a physical expression, a corpse that has no life to it. And then we have a living body. And so that is just the most basic element of animation. The divine life force is more of a spiritual life force. And I normally would try not to be confusing by using the words twice, except for the fact that you will find this everywhere. And so it's really important to recognize that even words like life force, have a variety of meanings, and some are just and they have more mundane expressions as well as more spiritual expressions. So I wanted to just bring that up right away. The nefesh is associated with the actions that we take. It's how we live in the world. It's called the animal soul because it expresses the basic autonomic functions, such as circulation in particular. It's associated with the blood, but circulation, respiration, some of those just basic things that just happen without us having to do anything. It's considered to connect the actual soul to the body. So this is again, this is almost like a pre-soul type of energy. It links physical body with that spiritual force that is that ultimately connects us to the divine. The nefesh is sometimes identified as the ego or the personality. It can be found in the blood and specifically in the organ, the liver. It's also considered the etheric body or the subconscious mind. And the etheric body, there are 2 aspects to that, and there is the energy, the energetic, the spiritual or psychic energy of the body. There is a layer that runs really close to the skin, and that's called the etheric double. And that's what the nefesh is mostly associated with. Then there's the actual aura, which is the egg-shaped uh, uh, energy field around us. And the nefesh, some authors do connect the nefesh with the aura as well. But it's more of those things that are easy to see and easy to feel. And so, provided you have a little bit of psychic ability, which everybody does, but but I guess I should qualify that a little bit. If you're too much of a materialist, scientific materialist, then you're like, none of that's real. And it's like, that's okay. You don't have to believe in it if you don't want to. So the ruach is the next level, and that word means spirit or wind. The ruach rises and descends, And it is our emotions. It's when we get excited about something. It's when we get upset or hurt and or depressed and don't have any energy. The ruach is all of this. And it's our feelings, our emotions. It's associated with talking. It's located at the heart, in the organ, the heart, but also at the heart center of the body. It's the conscious self, and it incorporates the 5 faculties. And we'll get to that a little bit more later, but the faculties are aspects of the personality, including memory, will, imagination, emotions, and intellect. And so that all of those things combine to create the ruach. The neshama is the breath or soul. And again, ruach literally means spirit or wind. Neshama is very similar to another word, neshima, which means breath. Neshama means soul. It is a pure intellect. It is recognizing philosophical truth, continuous coming into being. It's very creative. The neshama is a very creative energy. And represents, again, not just not just this sense of having been created, but that we're constantly in a process of being created or of coming into existence. It's located in the head or the mind. It is spiritual understanding, and it is the root of awareness. The Chaya is the life or life living or the divine life force. It is when you get up to these top ones, a lot of people will only speak about the soul referencing these lower 3 levels, because the neshama is a pretty high level. And so a lot of people only talk about the 3 levels of the soul. But if you extend it, there are actually 5 levels. And the neshama includes the neshama, the chaya, and the yechida. And so it includes all 3 of those. So the chaya is above that. It means life or living. It's the experience of ego loss, transcendence. It's considered an outer light. It's taught that we cannot achieve the level of chaya or yechida as human beings. It's only the very, very, very most ascended beings can achieve that. And so it's an outer light, meaning it is a light from the divine that is around us but is not in us. Some authors call this the aura, although the word aura down here, when I talk about the nephesh and the etheric body, including the etheric double and the aura, that aura is much more about the energy that you can feel, and that is kind of vibrating outward from your physical being, as opposed to a divine light showing that you are connected to the divine directly. These things are, by the way, one, I have been studying this for years. Doesn't mean I know anything at all about it, because sometimes I feel like I know nothing. And 2, these things are really hard to explain and really hard to describe. And I used to say this with almost every single talk I gave, but anytime I tried to, words limit and speaking limits, and that's part of the ruach. And so that part of and this is a really good example, ruach is the emotional thing. So I'm always trying to find words that feel right, right? I want to say the right thing. And so I sometimes lose some of the power of these bigger concepts that are hard to describe or hard to put into words because I don't have the words for it, or because I'm making bad choices in my words due to my own being too conscious of what I'm saying, my own emotional needs, or things like that. So all of us are always getting stuck down here in the Ruach. And so we can't always really understand some of these higher concepts. So again, it's very hard to describe, but it's, I think the words that we're putting around it and the concepts that we're discussing help to give us something to contemplate and think about as we explore this so that we can understand what these higher levels might be. The Chaya is the spiritual will. So there was a personal will that was one of the five faculties in the Ruach. That's what I want. The spiritual will is following what God wants for me. And so that's a much higher level of will or intention in the root. It is the root of action. And so action is taken down here, but we can let the Ruach, our own needs, drive our actions, or we can let this divine will drive our actions. And so that's part of the process of trying to get closer to God, is trying to, as best we can, not being not being capable when you're just a regular human being of actually achieving this. We're striving towards that. We're striving towards allowing that divine will to come in and guide us and guide our actions. And then at the highest level, we've got the yechida, the unity or oneness, and that's our divine essence. It's the divine spark. It is another outer light. Again, it's not who we are, it is God around us. It's the spiritual essence of the self. And one phrase that's used for this is dwelling constantly in the presence of God. And this is, again, this is high as transcendence. So this is beyond transcendence. This is like bliss or nirvana or something, perhaps. But dwelling constantly in the presence of God. One of the things you can notice about that is, even though it seems very it feels desirable, that's a Ruach talking, it feels desirable, I'd like to be there, please. It is a lot of Kabbalah is very much about integrating and moving between levels. And so it's not a withdrawal into our closest ability to connect with the divine. Rather, it's about allowing that presence of God to be with us all the time, even in our everyday actions and even as we live in the world around us. But there are certainly, if you study the lives of saints or mystics or anything like that, there's certainly that idea of withdrawing from the world in order to dwell constantly in the presence of God. And one thing that one of the authors I read mentioned is that sometimes there are, again, simplified ways of looking at this that are kind of comforting to us. Again, at that Ruach level, they just feel good, and we like the feel of it, and we like the emotional connection that we get from that. But the idea, a lot of people will say all of us have a part of God in them. And I say that all the time. We're all connected to the divine. We all have a part of God within us. And that is that spark, that divine spark. And this author pointed out that that's not exactly true, and that we are reflections of the divine, and that the divine is above and beyond anything that we can really comprehend. And so even though these levels get us closer and closer to understanding that, as the highest level you can go to, you're still not, there is still a sense of unity that is beyond what we can comprehend. And again, the highest we can go in the tree, the highest world, the highest level of the soul, none of those things can quite achieve that. And so even being at this highest level does not mean that you are um, totally 100% unified with the divine. It just means that you're experiencing the highest level we can experience and the most fully reflecting our own divine essence. So one of the main things with Kabbalah, and I guess I'll say really quickly right here, some of you might not know this, I've got a beginning Kabbalah class that is starting tomorrow. And so I am looking for some more people to join it. And if this stuff is interesting to you, please consider joining that class. I kind of designed this meetup at this time to be a little bit of an introduction to that Kabbalah class and to just give you guys a chance to find out a little bit more about what Kabbalah is like in case you're interested in studying it. And it's just a 4-session class and it's beginner level, so it's pretty accessible. Okay, let me go back to the slideshow. So the 5 levels as creation. And so one of the main ways that we think about this is via the text in Genesis that talks about God blowing breath into Adam. And the King James Version words it this way, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And that's Genesis 2:7. And the distinction here is that God commanded or spoke all the other aspects of creation. Let there be light, let there be uh the the earth and the separating out the waters above and the waters below, all the other stuff in Genesis. And so, although this, of course, is in Genesis too, but he's commanded or spoke all those other aspects of creation. But when it came to animating Adam, God blew or breathed that soul into Adam. So the created body contains the essence of the divine. And the way this was described in the article that I was reading is that the divine, by speaking things, created something that was clothed in the divine but wasn't containing the divine. um but by not using the voice but using the breath only, God put some of himself into Adam or humanity. And so that's that divine essence. And again, like everything Hilma's stuff, I'm just like so amazing. It's just like this is one of her chaos from her chaos series. And there's this star above and the star below, and they're linked. And it just looked to me exactly like God blowing the life into humanity. So really, really beautiful work. So I wanted to take a minute because I think this is really kind of useful. One of the things at the neshama level was this idea of spiritual understanding or deep thought, philosophical thought, spiritual thought. And one of the things that we can do when we're trying to understand Kabbalah is really study the words, because the words, especially Hebrew words, are very symbolic and very powerful. And so here's a breakdown of text about from that Genesis 2:7. This is that sentence about the creation of Adam. This is from Bible Hub, which is probably my go-to source when I'm looking anything up that's biblical. And checking Hebrew words or Greek words. This is from the lexicon for the New American Standard Bible, and that's the link over there. And so I'm going to try to get this a little bit more centered. So the first phrase, then the Lord. Lord there is, and Lord, when it's spelled in all caps like that in a Bible, it's always Yud He Vav He, the Tetragrammaton or Yahweh. And that's from the origin or root of that word is Hava. And that's just a proper name of the God of Israel. And so we've got Lord, God, and this word for God is Elohim. And again, it just means God. One of the cool things about the word Elohim is it's the plural, the masculine plural of Eloah, which is a feminine name of divinity. So this is actually a feminine word, but it has a masculine plural attached. The feminine plural, I believe, I don't know Hebrew, but I believe would be Elot. The same Sephiroth, I think it would be that instead of the im ending. And and the word Yud He Vav He Eloah or Elohim, Yud He Vav He Elohim is in Hermetic Kabbalah, every Sephira has a name of God associated with it. We do that when we're doing the middle pillar exercise, for example. And Yud He Vav He Elohim is the divine name for Bina, which is associated with the neshama. So, right, the very first two words of this phrase about the creation of blowing the soul into Adam is Yud He Vav He Elohim, the divine name of Bina, which is where the neshama resides on the tree. So, whoa, just like right off the bat. So then we go into formed, the very next word, vayitzer. The is it just means and yitzer is the same means to form or to create, to form, and it's the same root as the word yotzer, which is potter. And so that's where that song you learn in church camp, Abba, Abba, Father, you are the potter, we are the clay, the work of your hands. And so Yotzer is the potter, and that is a reference to the world of formation, which we'll get to later. And but it is one of the four worlds, the world of Yetzirah. So already each word here, it just sounds like it's like, oh, and Lord God formed something. Okay, great. No, each word here is very much related to elements of the soul and the elements of the four worlds, which is that creative process, that divine creative process. And you're like, okay, well, Joy, that's probably about as far as it goes. No. Then we've got Ha-Adam, Adam just meaning man or mankind. And then we've got of dust, afar. And then we go Ha-Adamah, again, same root as Adam. And here we go Vayipak, to breathe or blow. And again, that is one of those main ideas, into the nostrils. And then here we go Nishmat. That is that neshima. Neshama was the soul, Neshima is the breath. So we've got, again, references to the soul, to the breath, to this idea of blowing. And it looks like they are equating that word, because it's not down here. It must be, oh, I see what I was noticing. It said, I don't know why there's nothing here. This is just a screenshot of Bible Hub, and I didn't really look at it very closely, to be very honest with you. I just glanced at it, and was like, oh, look at all those cool words. So this is life from Chaya. And so that we saw Neshama, now we're seeing Chaya. And that is that the breath of life, the Neshima Chaya, the breath of life. And so again, of into mankind or of mankind, and man or mankind became, and this is interesting because this is Vahi, and you will notice the tetragrammaton is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. But you can anagram those letters and get different tenses, past tense and future tense. And this is one of those, in fact, that it's like from Hava, that's kind of part of that. But this is the hi the see, I don't know how to say it, but it's Vav Yud instead of Yud Hey Vav Hey. It's Vav Yud Hey Yud Vahai. I wish I knew how to say these things. Someday I'll actually learn Hebrew. So it is, but it's an anagram. And so it's like to become, literally to become. And then Chaim, again, that's a plural, so like a living one or something. Again, from Chaya, he became alive or living. And then being, look at that, le nefesh, a soul, living being, life, self, person, desire, passion, appetite, emotion. And so we get nefesh. So this one passage contains words for nefesh, chaya, and neshama. Just right there in that in this one passage, as well as the divine name of Bina and the word same root as Yetzira and all of this other stuff. So hopefully, and this is not something for me to explain to you and tell to you. This is what this is and why I'm willing to do it, even though I don't know what I'm doing, is that it's because I want to inspire you to take a look at words like this and take a look at Hebrew words in the Bible. Take a look at traditional Hebrew interpretations of things. Look at those words and see what you see. It's really worth, even the book of Genesis is full of different words for creation, and just examining those and when they're used and why they're what you think. Nobody knows. Only a rabbi can explain this stuff. And that involves an enormous amount of training and studying, that I have zero of. But it's worthwhile trying to read up on these things, trying to just contemplate it yourself and try to understand, or very least just notice a few things and see how much these aspects of the soul come through in spiritual writings. So here's the other main analogy that is used. So that first one was the creation of Adam. This other one is the glassblower analogy. And to me, this is this is much simpler. It's easy to remember. And so this is kind of my favorite. And so now we have all kinds of big, heady concepts kind of running around in our brain, and we're trying to get it all straight. And we're like, okay, what did she say? What is this about? What was that word again? Now we're going to try to put it just in a simple order, and so that you can remember. And it's the glassblower analogy. And so in this analogy, God wants to create something. And in particular, we think of God as being a glass blower. And hopefully you've seen demonstrations of glass blowing or maybe even done it yourself. It's easy enough to see those demonstrations like at a Renaissance festival or any kind of craft oriented place where they make things. I don't know. I guess I've seen glass blowers um probably like at Williamsburg and probably at Renaissance festivals. But the idea of, I knew a glassblower at one time, but I never saw him work. So Yekida is the desire to make something, and that's that highest level that's closest to the divine, or most clearly reflects the divine. And so that has some of that divine intention or divine spark to inspire us. So it is the desire to make something. It can be a decision that we make. That word, I actually did take that word from one of the articles I read. So I'm trying to be as truthful as possible to the sources that I used. My word is intention. I do think that that is relevant to this, but just that spark of, oh, I think I'm going to make something, and let's do that right now. And then higher level is one text described it as making a decision about what it's going to look like. And to me, I think it's a little bit more about knowing what it will look like, or because decision had also come up in this is that thing. It's like different authors use different words, and we have to parse it and understand that any of these can be a decision, even down to this. But what is a Yekida decision? That's not even our decision. That's God's decision coming through us, versus Chaya, which is still more divine, but it's almost shared with us. The Yekida decision, think of Hilma F. Klint, that what did automatic painting. She had no idea what she was doing. She said that a force would come in and paint through her and be very precise in how it moved. And she had no concept of what she was doing. That's definitely not that she is an ascended master or anything, but it sounds to me more like a Yekida level of just divine force flowing through and creating and resulting straight into that movement. The way I learned it again from these articles is that Kaya has a little bit more sense of, this is what it looks like. I have a vision now of what I'm going to create. The main analogy that I originally learned is simply that the glassblower takes a breath and fills the lungs. Just that moment where it's all in potential. You've taken the breath and you're ready to go. All of the creative force is still within the maker, the divine. Then neshama is when the breath comes to the lips. And some authors described it as the tube that connects to the molten glass, because usually a glass blower, I had a whole bunch of pictures of glass blowers so that to illustrate this, and then I found the Hilma F. Klint, and all of them are gone. And now I'm like, whoops, I could have used some of those. There's usually a long tube, and again, you've seen demonstrations, but there's that long tube with the glass at the end, sometimes much longer than your hand can reach, and I believe that they turn the tube as they're blowing. If you noticed on Meetup, there's an odd kind of abstract blue image that I used for the event description on Meetup. And it has kind of a spiral look. That is the punt of a blown glass vessel. And so you can see the punt is where it breaks off from the tube that's used to blow it. And you can see the spiral in there. And spiral is almost always an analogy or a symbol of creation or the creative process. Spinning, spiraling, a spindle, things like that. And so another reason glass blowing represents creation, because they twist the pipe and it creates a spiral form. So that neshama is when you're starting to send the breath out, and you have to have the right amount of breath, and you've got a long way to blow it to get to the molten glass, etc. It's beginning to breathe the life force into the object of creation. And this is still, it's still mostly at a divine level in the maker, so to speak, but about to leave, just at the moment of leaving the maker. It hasn't been received yet. Has it been? I don't know. Words are too hard. Okay, I'm going to just go on to the next thing. And so just think about it and you'll figure it out yourself. Ruach that's the air, that's when the air actually reaches the molten glass, and the glass blower, and I've never done this, so I don't know how this works either, but they're moving the thing. They've got, I don't know what kind of tools they're using. They're blowing and shaping the glass. And that's what the ruach is the ability to shape the glass via the breath. And so that's blowing the air to shape the object. It's the quickly changing shape of the object. Remember, this is the emotional thing. As it comes into conformity with the decision and the image that the creator has, and is intending to impart to this finished vessel. So this is the actual shaping of the vessel. And then the nephesh is the soul at rest. And that is the air that's in the empty space of the object after it's finished. And so that air takes on, when the vessel finally reaches its exact finished proportions and the glassblower stops blowing and says this is done, that's the nephesh right there, that air that's left. That's the nephesh. And so that's what we would think about and meditate on to understand the nephesh better. So again, the Yekida is that desire to make something. Chaya is having a clear image, taking a full breath, and ready to go. Neshama is starting to release that breath, starting to breathe out. Ruach is the actual force that's used to shape the changing and changeable molten glass. And the nephesh is when it's complete and there is air filling the empty vessel. So that's a glass blower analogy. And there's another one of those gorgeous paintings. I don't know why I didn't want to waste 2 slides on this, because I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in the next slides. So I gave kind of a brief overview of a lot of stuff right here. And this is precisely the stuff that we'll be covering in the Qabala class. So the 5 levels of the soul can be aligned with the 4 worlds, as well as the 10 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life. But before we do that, let's review those 2 concepts, the concepts of the 4 worlds and the concept of the 10 Sephiroth. And so the 4 worlds are the 4 levels of creation, from nothingness through to the manifest world around us. And so the 4 worlds do 100% match with the tarot suits and the four elements. And so absolute is the world of emanation. It's the element fire, the tarot suit of wands. When I teach it, I call it spark. It's that spark of inspiration. Bria is creation, the element water. It is the suit of cups in the tarot, and I call it dream or imagine the possibilities. Yetzira is formation, and that was Yotzer, potter. Yetzira is the world of formation. It is air, the suit of swords, and I call it focus. And Asiya is manifestation, the element earth in the suit of pentacles. I call it finish. So spark, dream, focus, finish. Those are the four worlds. That spark of inspiration, the dream of all the possibilities, the focus, and choosing just exactly how you're going to make this happen, cutting away the things that you don't need, making decisions, you know, to clarify what you can do, making best use of your resources. All of that goes into focus. And then finish is the final created object. Likewise, the 10 Sephiroth are the 10 emanations that form the ladder between perfect unity or the divine and infinite diversity or the manifest world. And so, again, I could have gone into a lot more detail, but I didn't. I just listed them here. Hater is the crown, Hokmah is wisdom, Bina is understanding, Chesed is mercy, Gevurah severity, Tiferet is beauty, Netzach is victory, Hod means splendor, Yesod means foundation, and Malkut means kingdom. And we'll go into it a little bit more, but again, this is stuff that I cover in the class in case you're interested in that. So placing the levels on the tree of life. And of course, because it can't just be simple, there's two different traditions. There's the Hermetic tradition, which is what I learned, and then there's more of a traditional Jewish Kabbalah a way of looking at it, which I thought was interesting. So I will cover both. But in the Hermetic tradition that I learned, the Yechida is associated with Keter, and that is that divine unity, oneness, that is just that that spiritual essence. And then Hokmah becomes Chaya, the spiritual will or that life force, that divine life force, the living quality, the quality of life. But again, it's at a very spiritual level. Bina is spiritual understanding, and it is the neshama or the soul. Remember, the word neshama can refer to just the part of the soul called the neshama, or it can also incorporate all three of these, the yakida, the chaya, and the neshama. And so those are the three main, and then the ruach comes in, and that incorporates in the Hermetic tradition, it incorporates these five, the next five. And so the ruach incorporates Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, and Hod. These are associated with memory. And so the Ruach is the personality. It was the emotional part that's changing and developing and rises and falls. And so it is memory, personal will. This is divine will. This is spiritual essence, but sometimes there can even be a divine will. I see will sometimes associated with this one. It's more like a divine intention for us or something. This is the spiritual will. This is the personal will. So memory, will, imagination, emotions, and intellect. And that's the ruach. And again, that's a part that's changeable. And all of those things are changeable. Intellect, we cannot know something, we can learn it. Emotions, our emotions are always changeable. We can learn to work with them or so that they are more even. Imagination. Some people just have a stronger imagination than others. And that's something, again, all of these things in the Ruach are things that we can work on and develop. And so imagination is something that you can develop. Will, having a strong sense of what you want and being able to kind of go for it and set intentions, you can work and develop that, and memory as well. And for instance, just to give you an example, everybody has a memory to greater or lesser degree. The Hesed level of memory is when you're really just completely flooded with a perfectly clear memory, when you're maybe looking through old photographs, or, the classic example, you smell something. I had found a one time when I was a kid, I found an old chapstick that I hadn't had, I lost or whatever. Anyway, I came across it and I smelled it. And that sense of smell, it took me straight back to actually to church camp. I'm pretty sure it was church camp. And it was a camp. I remember that. And just like all the memories of that camp just flooded in because I smelled, that was a chapstick I must have had when I was at the camp. And all those memories flooded in. So I know you guys have experienced that. And that's that really fullness of memory. And we can develop that to again, to have more and more clarity and fullness of memory like that. So that's the Ruach. And then the Nefesh, the soul at rest, is in Yesod. Yesod is associated with the etheric body, or energy that surrounds the physical body. And so the Nefesh is here at Yesod. And then in the Hermetic tradition, we'll introduce one extra word, Guf, which is the physical body. And that's down here at Malkut. And so I also explained in this system, Keter is absolute, the highest level or the spark level of the four worlds. Hokmah and Bina both are at the Briatic level, Bria, create, which is the dream level. The Ruach right here is the focus level. That's Yetzirah. And in fact, the Ruach, and I should have added that over here, the Yetzirah level, actually, I said I don't know why I wrote this. Yeah, I said Yetzirah minus Yesod, but it really is Yetzirah, both of these, just like Hokmah is in the Bria world and Bina is in the Bria world. All five of the Ruach and the Nefesh, Yesod, are all in the Yetzirah world, which is that world of formation. And then Malkut is in Asiya, using that Hermetic tradition. And so we can see how the Sephiroth and the four worlds and the five levels of the soul all work together, but not they overlap. They don't, it's not quite the one-to-one correspondence that would make it really easy. And so to answer the question, the four worlds 100% relate to the tarot suits: Spark, Dream, Focus, Finish, Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. The five levels of the soul don't quite relate to the suits that way, but I will tell you what they do relate to. But you can see that, but you are correct that it is very, very close. There is some overlap there, and it is there is some interest there, some connection without a doubt. Now, if you go to traditional Kabbalah, the four worlds also associate, and I didn't mention this earlier, but the four worlds also match the Tetragrammaton, or Yud He Vav He. Again, the highest world is Yud. That's absolute. Bria is He, Yetzirah is Vav, and Asiya is the final He. So one source I read associated Chaya with Absolute, Neshama with Bria, Ruach, which they included all six Sephiroth from Hesed down to Yesod. So they don't put the Nefesh here. And they said all of that was Yetzirah, and that the Nefesh itself was at Malkut. But in the Hermetic tradition, we definitely think of Malkut as the physical body. And I don't know where they put the body, and I don't know what they call. I assumed, I didn't see this written, but I assumed that the Yekida would be the Ein Sof, which is beyond the level of Cater. Again, all of this stuff gets explained in the Kabbalah class. It's a lot to go into right now. So this is mostly designed to give you the very basics that you need, but also to kind of inspire you to want to pursue this further. So let's go forward. So here's another illustration. This is one of my favorite books. This is John Michael Greer. He's the one that said, you know what? Spell check catches Kabbalah if I spell it any other way. So he uses this spelling. Paths of Wisdom, Kabbalah and the Golden Dawn Tradition. And this puts the levels of the soul on the tree of life. And you can see that here, Yechida at Keter, Chaya at Hokmah, Neshama at Bina, and then the Ruach consisting of those five: memory, will, imagination, emotion, and intellect. And then finally the Nefesh here and the Guf there. And this is where I first learned all of this, that particular book. Although I have a much older edition, not a much older, an older tradition. So here's where the 5 levels fit with the tarot cards, and I just learned this like last week. I had not known an association between the 5 levels and the tarot cards, and didn't know what to talk about. I was kind of, I mean, I knew what I normally talked about. I was like, what am I going to say in my presentation? And I thought I would always, I like to watch YouTube videos because I usually get so angry at what they're saying. I'm like, that's not right at all. And then I go and write my own thing. So I thought, well, maybe I'll watch some YouTube videos and see if it sparks me in any way. And so, but I actually found a really awesome video by this guy, David, or David, maybe it's just David. And he said his name. I remember it sounded a little bit different. I think it's just David. He is the author of the Qabalistic Tarot, Hebraic Wisdom in the Major and Minor Arcana. And this is not the Robert Wang Qabalistic Tarot. This is a different Qabalistic Tarot. And this guy, I believe, is Jewish and studied in Israel, as well as studied tarot. And he looked like I mean, the guy looks like Dumbledore or or why can I not remember the name? Any of those wizards. He looks like a wizard for sure. Very cool guy. Absolutely recommend. This is like a 10-minute video. I totally recommend it over here on YouTube. What he said in the video is he said the levels of the soul match the 5 court cards. And so he didn't go into any more detail, but I knew instantly what he meant, because he then went on to the next sentence, I believe, was something about the minor arcana cards 2 through 10. So I knew he was including the aces in the court cards. And it makes perfect sense. The Yekida, or that spark, that inspiration, that's the aces. The Chaya, which is the spiritual will or the life, that is the kings. The Neshama, and that is more of a directive force. Neshama is more of a receptive force. That's the queens. The Ruach, the knights, who are striving and growing and trying to achieve something and unsure about things that and then the nefesh, the soul at rest, is the pages. And so it makes really good sense. And as soon as just that one phrase, he's like, oh, it matches to the 5 court cards. I was like, boom, you just explained everything to me. So that's again not just something, just ideas. I encourage you to go check out his video on YouTube and meditate on this. So the 5 levels of the soul as the court cards. Yekida is the aces, Haya the kings, Neshama the queens, the Ruach the knights, and the Nefesh the pages. And there's one last beautiful and gorgeous celebratory piece of art to just kind of cleanse our palate as we come to an end here. And this is the kind of the concluding thing. I said, how to love God. And so I wanted to give you some suggestions for how to use this to get closer to God. And so we usually learn it's usually explained top down, Yekida through the Nefesh. But when we want to return up to the divine, we have to start from where we are and move upwards. And so starting with the Nefesh, it's the soul at rest. One of the things that we can best do to connect with this is finding stillness, being that empty vessel. Some ways, and these are again, I've got some sources listed at the very end, most of the sources that I used for this presentation. There are some really nice examples given, taking action to get closer to the divine, like giving to charity or studying spirituality. So those are all things that you can do at the nefesh level. Sitting and finding stillness to me is really important and really huge. But even if that doesn't feel possible, try some of these other things, taking action that gets you closer to the divine. One example was like walking to a lecture on Kabbalah, and it's like, oh, perfect. I love that. So just showing up today is an example of nefesh at work. It's just like taking an action to learn more about spirituality, about the divine, and so on. Ruach, letting only spirit move you. And this is actually a exercise that we do in Reiki. And there is this really beautiful exercise that we do, and it's not a common one, but I have done it before. And the idea of, first of all, just sitting still, and that's the nefesh, and coming into a place of rest and coming into a place of reception, kind of releasing anything that is rippling your water. Finding the breath we know is very much the soul itself. In many ways, it connects us. Finding the breath. And then sitting until you just suddenly feel this urge towards movement. And of course, as a Reiki exercise, we are building and connecting with the Reiki energy, and allowing that Reiki energy to inspire us towards movement. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it that way or think of it that way. It's just connecting with that divine energy, and not just connecting with what do I want. If you sit still and just wait to see what you want, you're stuck in Ruach. And I don't know for about you, but I'll probably go to the kitchen and get something to eat. So we're trying to find something higher than that. We're trying to find that divine movement that's the root of action from Chaya or above. What moves us? And C, again, Ruach, instead of following our own, oh, I think I'll do this. I think I'll do that. Oh, I'm feeling like this right now. See if you can let the other energy through and let that be the motivating, the desire that you have, the emotional, uh, objective that you have. So then the neshama, pure abstract moral thought, understanding of deep truth, revelation. And so again, I tried to incorporate that as an actual exercise in the presentation when we did the analysis of the biblical text. And looked for words in that one sentence that represented the soul or the levels of creation. And you can, again, spend some time. This is they say in the Hermetic tradition, they say that I forget what the ratio is, but for every X amount of time you spend studying, you should spend some higher ratio. I think it's 3 times as much time meditating on what you've studied. And so many of us forget to do that part. I know, for instance, I really take a long time to read anything, and a lot of times it's because even as I read, I stop and think about it. And I can stop every single sentence, which means reading a page sometimes can take a really long time to get through. And sometimes, yeah, I'm on a deadline and I need to get X number of pages read if I'm going to get the chapter read in order in time for the something or other that I have to do. And so, sometimes I have to go a lot faster. But remember once in a while when you're studying your whatever spiritual things or tarot things that you're reading about, remember to stop and think about it, stop and meditate on it, try to get that spiritual insight into what you're reading. You'll find that some really amazing things come through when you give the space and time for that. That's the neshama level. Chaya is transcendence. It's complete ego loss, no self-seeking or self-identity. Obviously, this is a very high level that most people are not going to do on a daily basis. Certainly, they're not possibly even ever going to experience in their life, but probably you've had hints of it at some point or other. And so thinking of that, recognizing, especially if you're getting into some of these deeper levels, maybe you're meditating on something that you've read and maybe you start to notice that your own, I already understand this. Is it the same thing? Or I think it means this. That would make me feel good if it means this, but I'm not sure it means that. That shows the ruach coming through, right? And so as you're meditating and you notice the ruach trying to take over, let it go. This is actually one of the very first exercises that I teach in my beginning tarot class. I teach this exercise that's intuition versus instinct. And sometimes our instincts, they can be very powerful and but they're usually about self-preservation. Intuition is much more open and expansive. And so even though both are very important, instinct is going to come in at the nefesh level. But when we can release our expectations, when we can release our definitions of things, when we can release our good and bad around things, then we get these much more powerful sense of clarity, of truth, things like that. And that'll come out. That stuff starts to come out at that higher level by recognizing when our own sense of self or what we want to hold on to as true when that comes into play, and learning to let go of that. That's when letting go of it brings you into the higher level. And then, of course, Yekida, that spiritual will and divine creativity, God consciousness. And that's usually expressed through self-sacrifice. And of course, a main example of that would be uh, Christ's sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins, but it doesn't have to be that. There's many examples of sacrifice throughout mythology and religion, and it doesn't have to be sacrifice of life like Christ did. It can be sacrifice of other things. Think of examples of the saints. Again, I grew up Christian. Those are going to be the things that come to mind first for me. I try not to always go there. But certainly you can extend these metaphors into whatever tradition you follow. Um, uh, what can you get by without in order to get closer to God consciousness, in order to deeper connect with the divine? And so those are examples of how you can use this to get closer to God, to love God better. A lot of times, Hilma F. Klint did multiple multiple iterations of certain topics or themes. And this isn't quite the very first one I saw of hers, but it's very similar. And that's when I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. And just all of this, the perfect, the infinite diversity of the manifest world, the uh, coming together of opposites and polarities, that helical evolution of DNA, or of the spiral of creation coming down from the divine. It just, all of that is the tree of life right there, and perfectly illustrated. So gorgeous, and such a perfect way to reconnect, and to imagine ourselves reconnected with the divine. This is a class. It starts tomorrow, and it's in the mornings in Pacific time, which makes it doable for um, people in England and Europe. The time zone fits pretty nicely. It's 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Learn the esoteric symbolism of the Kabbalistic tree of life and apply that knowledge to connect with your higher self and the divine. And like I said, it's really beginner friendly, but I'll give you a lot of info and some meditations and things like that. Print resources that I referred to, online resources. I'll get you a copy of these slides that I referenced. And again, always thank you. And there's my website, blog. Um, we've got tons of great events at the Greater Seattle Tarot Meetup. I'm on YouTube, and so on and so forth. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.